What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so today is the day, election day. And in 5 hours, the polls will close. And shortly thereafter, we will know who have won the gubernatorial race. And I think it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Abigail Spanberger will become the next governor of Virginia. And I've been kind of leaning toward that for several months, obviously. I thought it would take a miracle for Winsome Earl Sears to win this election, but she has a lot of things going against her. She's just not a good fit for the state of Virginia. If this had been, say, Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina, maybe Louisiana, she'd be a better fit. Her policies, her party affiliation, who she's connected with Trump, she'd be a much better fit. One thing about MAGA Republicans, or the MAGA base, I should say, is that unless Donald Trump is at the top of the ticket, or unless that Republican has a certain look to them, honestly, to be honest with you, Trump is such a phenomenon. If he's not at the top of the ticket, a lot of these other Republicans struggle unless they're in a state like the ones I just named, the Deep South, where Republican registration outnumbers Democratic registration like 2-1 or something like that, right? Unless they're from a state like that, unless Trump is at the top of the ticket, they struggle. So that's going against her. Virginia is not the conservative state that it once was 20, 25, 30 odd years ago, right? Due to population shifts, demographic shifts, we have a growing number of young people in Virginia. Virginia is still polarized to an extent. As I said, Southwest Virginia, certain coastal areas of Virginia are still conservative, but Northern Virginia, the Richmond area, where I'm from, those areas are, and also Norfolk, Tidewater area, there's still very Democratic areas in that part of the region, especially Fairfax. Matter of fact, I want to say Fairfax accounts for 40% generally of the vote in statewide elections. And if Democrats can get a margin of 30 points in that area alone, and in Richmond area, if they can get a margin of 20 points, 25 and 20 on the coast, it's really hard for Republicans to overcome that, because the other areas are so small population-wise that they have to run the score. And Glenn Youngkin was able to, 4 years ago, run up the score in those small counties. And he was able to cut into the margins for Terry McAuliffe, who was the former governor, Democrat, running 4 years ago. He was able to cut into those margins, so he was able to win a small 51 to 49% victory, which is what I predicted at the time. I thought he was going to win 51-49. I was going to say that I thought that Abigail Spanberger was going to win this election 54-45, with about 1% going to third party, right? That was going to be my prediction. But I'm hearing something that I suspected was going to happen, right? And that is, they're reporting that in the southwestern counties of Virginia, turnout looks very, very disappointing. It looks low. At the same time, turnout in areas that are generally Democratic seems very high. uh, moderate to high in certain instances. And, you know, you got to look at certain events. You got to look at, I mean, numbers are one thing, but you got to get a feel for this stuff, right? Like, Virginia, oftentimes historically, the candidate that wins the Oval Office a year before these gubernatorial elections, the losing party often wins the election the next year. So even though Kamala Harris won Virginia last year, she underperformed. She won by 4 points, I think. That's underperforming for a Democrat nowadays in Virginia. So even though she won, by Trump overperforming so much, it's kind of technically a win for him based on merit. So Democrats are due, because of the fact that, you know, they're going to be more motivated to come out to vote. They're disgruntled because Trump won. Also, it's not just about Trump. Virginia Democrats want to build, they want to win a majority. They want to build an overwhelming majority in the General Assembly. They're not going to be able to do that in this election, but they want to be able to do it ultimately. And, you know, you got remember the government shutdown. So you have the government shutdown going on, and that's affecting people who live in Northern Virginia. And surprise, surprise, as I just stated, a lot of people that live in Northern Virginia skew Democratic. So they're probably much more motivated to go out there and vote against Winsome Earl Sears. And down ballot, not just Winsome Earl Sears, but they're going to be more willing to vote against, say, John Reed, who's running for lieutenant governor, Republican, or vote against Jason Miyares, who's the incumbent, right? So then you have, you know, poor people who, at least minorities, skew Democratic. And I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest with you, there might even be a small secret Spanberger vote. And you know what I mean by that, right? Because let's be honest, man, a lot of these MAGA voters, as I said, they're not going to vote for Winsome Earl Sears because of what she looks like. They're not going to admit it, but a lot of these people are on SNAP benefits, right? A lot of these people are on SNAP benefits, and they might get out there and whine and complain about their tax dollars going to this, that, the other. But we all know that a lot of these people secretly are on that shit. So they get in that booth and they're going to vote for Spanberger. That's what I'm starting to suspect. So what I'm going to do is, if I'm wrong, damn it. But I think Spanberger's going to win by a margin that will shock people. I think she's going to get 58 to 59% of the vote. And I think Sears is going to get 40 to 41% of the vote. That's my prediction right now. She's not going to crack 60, but she's going to get 58 to 59% of the vote. Because I said, Black Republicans almost always underperform. When it comes to the lieutenant governor's race between John Reed and I believe her name is, I think it's Gashlahami or Gashlahashi. Hope I pronounced it correctly. I don't know about this race, man. I think if I had to take a guess at it, I think Hashmi's going to win that race, but it's going to be by a smaller margin. because there's a lot of voters who just for some reason claim that they're unsure, right? I think that she's probably going to win high street, probably like 53-47 or some crap like that. 50, 52-47, something in that range. And in the attorney general's race, which is the one that a lot of people are unsure about, between Jason Miyares, the incumbent, and Jay Jones. Now, Jay Jones is the one that had that texting scandal where, supposedly he fantasized about unaliving through violence some MAGA Republicans. And then Republicans feeling like they were so offended, even though they voted for a 34-time felon and a suspected rapist and all this other stuff. But anyway, that race I'm unsure of. In recent polling, Jason Miyares seemed to have made some traction. But if Abigail Spanberger overperforms, as I'm starting to think she will, then I think that'll probably drag Jay Jones in barely, maybe about 1.5 percentage points or something. If I'm wrong and Spanberger wins, but not by that large a margin, maybe about 10-11, then Jay Jones may lose that race, and then we'll have some ticket splitting going on as far as who wins and who loses these races. But Winsome Earl-Sears, I think she's done. She's done. When you look at polling, man, she's never risen above 44%. And like I said, I'm looking at some of the live turnout, and it looks really disappointing in Southwest Virginia. And usually with MAGA voters, they come out strong on election day, and they're not doing that. So that's just a guess on my point, on my part, and we'll see. But anyway, tell what you guys think.